Like, I hate putting, like, pressure, speech kind of situations. So, yeah, very, very casual. Just real quick, I'm Amy Sterling. I help kind of coordinate and facilitate the Hawai'i Nei art show. I don't work here at Wailoa Center. I work for the Fremont Alliance, who's a collaborator in this exhibition. But to confuse it, there is an Emily that works downstairs who's the director. So sometimes people get us confused with each other. But, we're two separate people. But yeah, this is kind of one of our first juror talks for the show. And yeah, really thank you for being here today. And I'll let you take it away and share what you want to share, your monologue goals. And yeah.
Well, aloha mai kako. I'm Carl F.K. I'm originally from Oahu, and about 7 years ago now. 7 years ago. Family moved over, and I teach at Kamehameha schools, high school, visual arts department. Outside of that, love to be outdoors, and as a kid, we had ducks and wildlife, living in HIAA-Wailoa. My mom was an avid conservationist, and so to be here in this island now, it's just amazing to have the resources and the access. So to have been asked to be a part of the show and to be one of the judges was a big honor. So mahalo for that. So for the show, judging it, and if any of you have ever had to judge a show, it can be daunting and intimidating. Luckily this time I had a partner to carry some of that load, that responsibility, and I was very grateful for having Dania because she's like the conservationist expert and artist. So it was really nice to be able to defer to her for technical kind of questions when it comes to the species.
So when you judge, do you have a rubric? Do you have a formal rubric?
So excellent question. So we kind of had we decided that okay, the works that kind of just stand out and pop out to us like visually, and then we decided that we would then look at different species that we could represent and have in the show. And we even got to the point where we had to call out to find out if the species was even here in this island or if it was only this team flying by. So it was pretty technical when we got down to looking at the different species that are included in the show. And so how many times did we go through everything?
I think almost 3 times.
Yeah, at least, close to 4 times. Took a whole year.
Yeah. We had over about 230 some entries, which was kind of a high amount, and really it's narrowing it down to like 75 to 100 pieces. So that's really, the biggest limiting factor is then again the space. But yeah, really have to be selective.
Yeah. And like with my background, what's really nice about the submittal process is in the iCafe is that artists can give some background to their work and give some know, and for me having experience with different media, I can appreciate the technique that went into work, so I can also look at pieces that way. But then again, it came back to us both kind of saying, having our list of yes and one of us, a maybe for one of us, and then fortunate that we had to pass on. But that was the process.
Well, I call it the hashing out.
Yeah, it's rough, and like as a kumu, as an artist, whenever it comes to jury shows, you can never take things personal. I can't even count how many shows I haven't made it into, or my students don't get into shows and it's like, don't worry about it. It's somebody's opinion, or maybe they have a rubric they have to follow or something. And it's not easy. For the walk, I thought maybe we could just kind of do a walk and go around. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask at any time.
Nice, we have some of the artists here.
Maybe, yeah, it would be great if you could talk about your work too as we get to it. Yeah. And then, of course, we were asked to submit work ourselves, so I'll be happy to share about a piece I did too.
Those you coordinated with your people.
Well, I was trying to support, got to go to the Hakalao open house back in October. I don't know if anyone has been there. Phenomenal job of, again, people recognizing the need to reclaim and to restore, and then now promoting the importance of our native forests and species.
With Hakalao, I always think of Jack Jeffrey. He always, he had this really big vision for Hakalao, and he said, these native birds, it won't be in my lifetime that we'll see them and see that their comeback. But it is happening, and it's really amazing. But yeah, you can go there now for the open house, and you can check off a kepa, a kiapola'au, alavi, and they're there and they're thriving. And it's one of those like really bright spots when it comes to our native species.
And even the plants too.
And the plants too.
Really
yeah.
clear and keep on, and then the natives start to pop up. Because you imagine their seed bank has been there for thousands of years, so it's just a matter of giving them the space to pop up. So I guess we'll just go this way. So again, we try to represent species, and even media, so a lot of photography, of course. We just thought, like with the EEB pieces, that we knew that if we selected a bunch, that Jeff, who does the install, who always does an impeccable job, would probably put them all together and be totally matched what we were thinking would happen. So the pairings and the way that things are exhibited are not our vision, it's Jeff's vision. And I think Diana does photography, so she could, I don't do photography like professionally or have that training, so she was able to, say, okay, this part, yeah, it looks great, but this part is not in focus, or this, or the color or the contrast. So again, being able to defer to someone that knows more than you is always awesome.
Really high quality photos. And one thing I did want to point out about this, Jill, this is incredible photo right here. But another really amazing thing is just the coevolution that was captured in this last photo right here. With the EEB and the ma'ohi ohi, one of our native mintless mints. Yeah. And you can really see how that flower evolved with this EEB in its bill. So really cool. And you can even see that it's like where the pollen would be on those pistils at the top, and how it would get onto the EEB space, and the EEB would go to the next flower and help pollinate. Yeah. I love that.
As a photographer, I think sometimes people just think, oh, that's just like done. How many hours photos, to get to that point?
Thousands and thousands of each. Yeah. Clearly, just a fraction of a moment can make or break. And it's, the birds are small and they're fast. Ryan also knows, he has lots of experience with that. So whenever you capture something that you're happy with, it's when all the stars align, your settings, your focus, the light, and the bird actually is in the photo, that makes it.
How excited were you when you saw that one little drop?
I was really excited. It was early morning and it had just stopped raining, misting, and Yeah, and it's just, you know, as soon as I shot that sequence, I could look, because you could see the water drops just flying around.
Well, maybe at some point, our photography will capture things with such a high detail that, because I think of the drop.
Yeah.
You know how some of those, like on iPads, you can zoom in, and like find a little thing,
Right.
zoom in, and keep going and going. Like, I was like, I wonder if you could see the reflection of the Eevee in the
I know, that
water
would be
drop.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a beautiful morning, and it's definitely a kind of a magical moment.
So how far, just telephoto I imagine, right?
Yeah.
So how far were you when you?
Maybe here to that pedestal over there.
Pretty cool.
But, you know.
Did you get a sense of bird notice too? Did you get any sense of bird notice too?
Not really. They were, it was, like I said, early morning, and the birds, the Eevee, Apakane, and Amakiwi were just flying in and out of this particular tree.
What was that?
That was up at Hawai'i. So they were quite comfortable doing their thing, regardless of whether we were there or not.
Yeah. So when it comes to these days, everything's digital. So we get the images, and you know we're looking at a screen, or we actually have the monitor.
Yeah, the big.
Yeah. So it's nice to kind of get a sense of scale. And you know, a lot of artists are not professional photographers and taking pictures of their own works. So it's always difficult trying to imagine what the work would look like, and then of course to see them in person, and to know that, you know, as a juror you got it right, and things look, of course, a lot of times even better than when you see them both times, when you see them on that little screen. And of course the way that they're displayed too really makes an impact. Again, with species, we got a whole bunch of seals, and then the species here in different versions or different media. So we were trying to say, oh yeah, it'd be cool to have it as a photo and as an illustration. So that's, again, it's another part of an insight into our process of how and why we selected certain works. So it was cool, again, having Daniel and your expertise and knowledge to be able to see the different species, own different species, and be like, okay, we should have this, we should have that, we should have that. Okay, and then have our list and just kind of go through it. And again, as you know, being just the phone camera guy, photographer, but just, you know, appreciating places too where people travel to get those shots, or the time that it takes to sit and wait to get that perfect photo.
Yeah. So in your photographs, did you get any? I went around. Did you see any with using drones?
That's a good question. I don't think we, yeah.
And I think that might be a big thing. That would be really cool. It would be really cool to get video one day of drone footage. But I think there's a lot of like restrictions, especially in these places, you know, like Hawai'i, where you would see native species, restrict drone, you know, that in the national parks you can't have drones, that kind of thing. So that
I
kind
mean,
of
could be other areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of areas.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty wild. Definitely give you a different perspective.
No, especially the inaccessible ones. You dangerous to take.
Right.
I would love to see one day the folks that are working with rod and doing, because they use drones to detect also invasive species, but also places that have rod. So some art piece that maybe incorporates their data collection that they've gotten. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And sad.
And sad, but also I think that education piece too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Like that's beautiful work. I've just seen, I mean, it's going exponential with drones, from, you know, from military to science. It's just a new technology. You see it in cinematography now.
Yeah. Yeah. Next year.
No, yes, that, we have never had a picture review. We are that.
I think, just kind of mentioned coming in and having the plant involved too, incorporated such a wonderful addition. It brings, yeah. Let's see. So like with this piece here, we had some Lolu, it was a photograph and the print. So again, it was like kind of deciding, do we include both or include the one that was a little bit more unique as far as process. And again, like with Saxony's piece, some artists submitted work that were not completely done because of the time frame, because there was like 3 weeks from the time of the submittal to, and so we could look at artist work and we knew their work, I think, but then at the same time, that piece, we actually liked it in the state that she sent it to us, and so I expressed that to her and at the Festival of the Birds, and that maybe she might consider taking that approach to her work and having some of it in the different stages, leaving it. And then with the Evie and the branches, which was a powerful going back to the log.
Ryan, you got that right from Halamanu, yeah. Yeah. Patiently waiting. Yeah. Do you remember what time of year it is?
March.
March, okay. I always try to send people up that way, but I'm like, I'm not always there. But yeah, I feel like you can always come in from like January or March to have good change.
Yeah, so there's just the discussion that we had of that piece, talking about the construction of the stores within the scan, and that there's the gap and then there's the light.
It was kind of like a hopeful moment.
Yeah. Sad as to see it, but then being hopeful. So yeah, very powerful. And same thing with capturing that moment, hours and. So again, trying to find representation of the different species, and then not just the photograph, but also looking at different styles. With the marker, more of a kind of not street art, but kind of a anime illustrative approach. So trying to have open mind to the works, the different types of works that were submitted and the different portrayals of the species. So the piece on the left, that's the one we actually have to call Brent Mossman to find out if, because there was understanding that there was they had been seen flying past the island or flying around the island, but we didn't know that there was history of them actually nesting on the island and having a presence. So we had to reach out, and he confirmed that they do have or have had a history of being here. And so it's nice to see, again, it's always nice, again, and surprising and wonderful to see the pieces in person. So you can imagine that a lot flatter and, just the digital image of it. So that in person you can see the softer tones and,
Yeah.
So that's my piece that I created for the show, and again I just have my phone take photos on the trails. So that was up at Hawai'i Nei, and the Hawai'i was blooming. This was the first time I was up there that I saw it blooming, and it was just amazing. And so I just took a picture and took a bunch of pictures. And I really liked that composition, and wanted to, again, when we do our artwork, we're sharing our voice, we're sharing our views, our politics, whatever it might be, and just the importance of that planning and learning about how it was thought to be extinct, and find some in the usual places, the deep valleys where it was explained to me that the sugarcane plantations, the way we weren't able to clear those areas, and also as they bulldozed and pushed earth, all those seeds also went down into those places, and it's a great place to go and find native species that we think may not exist. But yeah, using our art as a public voice, right, to bring address concerns, and bring attention to things that we find to be important. So if you're not familiar with my work, the geometric shapes in the background, that's my watermark that I draw on, carve into all my pieces at the very beginning, and then I work on top of that. Sometimes you see them, sometimes they're a part of the composition, other times they might be covered over completely. And the color background, I debated, do I go with the obvious complement of purple, violets, and yellows? But then I really wanted to go with the reds to contrast not just the greens, but also to bring attention to the relationship with the EV and the other creepers, to have that in there. A lot of people think know my work. I'm usually really abstract. So when they see my realism pieces, they're always kind of like, what? I do realism. It's always nice to have speaking of three dimensions, same with like carving into things, having three-dimensional pieces in a show such as this. Again, because we're so used to, in wildlife or environmental works, photographs and paintings, but to have three-dimensional, in this case, even with kinetic, and that's able to move around with the heat, the energy that you bring. And again, to see this in an artist's photograph in their space that they try to create or think is a good space to take a photo of, and then to see it in person was always special. It was really nice coming in from up here and seeing it moving that way. The print, Margaret Barnaby, kind of like an institution.
This is the OG bay,
Yeah.
the bay of Hawai'i Nei right here.
Yeah, and Liz's work. Being here now for the 7 years, and wanting to immerse myself in the community and getting to know, again, the artists and just not just understanding or appreciating their work, but also understanding their commitment, dedication. But the pieces speak for themselves, just masterful. And if you know anything about printmaking, you can really appreciate Margaret's work, the skill, the depth, the planning, the vision, and just the commitment, the dedication to print as many layers and to carve and do all the work that's involved. One more plan? Photographs. It's as I'm getting to know some, professional photographers here, and seeing their process, that it's not just all take a picture, or as before, take a picture, develop it. Now with technology, you can go in and use different filters, you can play with the contrast, the color, all that kind of stuff. And so like with these pieces here, we kind of look twice, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, it is a photograph because of the way that you can create the different subtleties and effects. So we really like the softness of these two, and then also the reflection, and then the one on the right of the environment, having them in their environment, which is a whole other discussion, because we got to be picky about, okay, what kind of species of grass is that around them, or the trees that they're in, and that actually decided why some pieces didn't get it. Like, we actually liked the work, but then because of what plant or that was involved or part of the composition, actually caused us to not allow it in here. Sadly. Which could maybe be part of the discussion of how native species are having to adapt and be with the introduced species. Again, along with, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's going to change. I mean, invasives are, it's a thing, and just to find a pristine area completely endemic. And so, I mean, even the sense of ecology is going, like, how far back you're going to go down, damage period or what.
Yeah.
Things just change.
Yeah. Well, my wife, she's from Aotearoa, and so our last trip we got to go to Wellington to Zealandia, the big bird, or actually this wildlife refuge that's just right outside of the city. And because it's been so successful, some of the bird species, especially the parrot, kaka, is now moving into the city. And so, can we maybe represent that adaptation or that evolution that our native species are making to or with the introduced species and environments.
Which Evie's a great example. The super invasive banana polka, like they've adapted to getting into that flower and getting nectar from it. So yeah. There's finding food sources, even if it's not native.
Yeah. Again, it was nice having not just photographs, but artists' interpretations, renditions of the different species, and then also looking at the different media too. Yeah. Again, just when you know process and material and everything, beyond just the visual power of the works, just the appreciation of the time and everything that goes into
It's a nice ring.
the work.
Yeah.
So it's just I mean, they can make or break for you too, that, definitely adds to it. And it was really fun to see in person, because the photograph, if you don't look at the material, you just think, oh, it's just a kid, blue haze, but, to walk in and to see it, it's like, as an artist, as, installation, having history in installation art, I was like, can this artist like create 100 of these and we just put them all over the place in the gallery and have the shadows casted all over and, to kind of be in that thicket, would be pretty wild. Again, with Jeff's, decision of how to hang and saw and light pieces. So this is the speech. I got a lesson on habitat of our bat, and yes, they are on the coast, and part of their feeding time is at dusk and dawn, or at dusk, and so got the education on that one. So I put in the question, I was like, is that really their habitat?
And she even included, so she wanted to make a title change, to add Honolulu, because this was actually capturing an experience down there with her husband, yeah. She wanted to add that, yes, that's where it was, yeah.
And the diptych piece here, I personally really like having the different, representing the different stages. I thought it was a unique way of putting those two together. With these works in here, with the copper keys, Avalon had several entries, so we kind of went back and forth on which ones really stood out to us. We really appreciated this one because of the species that she was representing. And then the lantern pieces were pretty cool. I'd like to see those actually. With this work here, it was, again, with having two jurors, we could talk and educate each other about an artist or a process or a species. In this case, I happen to know the process behind this work and the amount of research and time to go to these places and to take the photographs. They're high-res ink jet prints that are hand-cut and collaged onto the surface. So it's not just a photograph that's painted, and then there's the layers and everything. So again, appreciation for the composition, the art, the species, the place that it's representing, but then also in this case, to share process. Again, seeing work in a digital, you can imagine this a lot tighter, and at times it's almost like, oh, is it out of focus? But then to see in person and to see the softness of the work and the layers, again, just it doesn't do it justice when you see it.
What do you think that mesh represents? Is that part of it?
So that was something that we were discussing. I liked it as a graphic detail, and that it could bring about conversation. You know, is it a net? Is it protecting? Is it capturing? And having more experience, so my daughter has to be part of the Kuku'opono program over the summer, and so they actually have to go and catch native birds and, part of the, process of, collecting dead,
Oh, it's shadows of the fencing, there's so much fencing.
It'd be fencing too, yeah. So it's always like trying to interpret, right? But also at the same time being able to say, okay, I may not know what it is, but then I can see where it can bring about conversation. So I understand we have the artist.
Yes,
here.
Mark.
So say something about.
So you're talking about, your needs to carry things into the show. So last year I actually had somebody call for me to see if I could actually use the species in the piece. They were just depicting it, and so I got it clear and fair, but my niece was jurying, was a juror last year, so I made that one. Shook Howell from the road, that I'm listening to the coronation, and I saw Howell, except for the UPC, which is the die on the bottom part. And, so here's my question.
It was so refreshing because we really love the aspect that you didn't the species, that you actually used it in the work, and then the skill and everything.
Yeah.
I want to see a whole room full.
Yeah, I'm not a very prolific maker of these things, but there's guys that are making them.
That would be beautiful.
And I hope that's an art that we see more of a comeback of, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's guys that teach at the universities, the bishop.
Yep.
Down in Maui that we saw,
Mm-hmm.
and so, yeah, those guys are.
I feel like Tangaroa has been a really big, even in
Sure,
like
sure.
fashion and,
Yeah, so I didn't take it there when I started a while back, and I just wanted to just, handmade net, so, just the fiber that I can collect here, so from the ground up, that was always been my thing. Make the cord from the dirt up.
Those last pieces.
Yes.
Again, having
So I gotta make it like a.
more time in the community here.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
have had the opportunity to jury.
Yeah, it takes a while.
See, this is a large class. Our community here. So I wanted to, but we both wanted to have that representation in the show. And again, see them in person. You can't see all the factors you have with the lighting. And again, the scale and the appreciation of the craftsmanship.
I must say, it's another story, ongoing,
Again, just trying to represent as many species that we could. The one with the other file I had seen in another show, and I was thinking, this one already been entered, because there's, restrictions of having work, but then, having the understanding, another member of the party that this is a series and there's other things of it. But again, this is a great example of the interaction of natives and our intrusion into their spaces, for good and bad. So at we wrote the book, again, in this case, with the bark, appreciating that kind of artist eye or that the relationship that artists will have with their subject, and just seeing the artwork in the kind of mundane or the things that you might take for granted. And again, seeing a piece in person and it being really refreshing to see it, and of course it's much better than what we had envisioned.
From the Florian Mamaki piece here, she came to our dye workshop that we had earlier in the year and brought some materials. So she had a piece of silk and a couple pieces of rice paper that she asked if she could dye. So it was really cool that, yeah, she participated in this educational experience and then was able to incorporate those pieces into her artwork now here on display. And then also that we have its true form next door neighbor right here.
It looks like the corners are like the seed pods of the Mamaki. You know, like the seed pods.
Dominic's work, if you're familiar with his work, and like his environment and species, one, that's just striking visually, and two, like the work of their experience living in Leilani Estates and the eruption and everything, their intimacy with that environment. And then finally, the level of craftsmanship. If you have the time to go up and really get into the work, you can really appreciate the layers that he developed and that he's self-taught. So I like the way that Jeff decided to hang these pieces together. I think it's kind of like a contrast or almost like a transition from one to the next. It's interesting that this one, a lot of people thought it was a painting, but it's a photograph. I think it works well. And then with this work and the artist, there were several submissions. And for us, this one, we kind of went back and forth because we were all familiar with the artist's work. And it's one of those where we had to go and choose the one that really stood out to all of us. The B was really interesting because they realized it was a collaboration artist, and it was refreshing when works are submitted that are collaboration. And again, to see it in person. And then the Nene, it almost looks like a photograph, and you realize that it's painting pretty wild. And of course, Daniel is into these different places more than I am, and could appreciate the location of these pieces. This chick over here, when I was looking at the work, I thought that was the same artist, but yeah, different. But I like that there was two people that were working kind of in the same scale and format. Yeah. And of course, the Evie, when we saw it, was like, oh, photo. Again, artist works that we're very familiar with, again, of high level composition, craftsmanship, and the piece in the middle is like this eye candy, and the artist also provided like a little key, a little of all the species and everything that's included.
Just a list alone that could have been put in the show. It's pretty wild.
Encourage you to check out the QR code. She put in
Yeah.
a lot of time.
Yeah.
Also with research.
one, right?
Yeah, the large, audience. And again, including species, location, and Daniel was really excited about having mushrooms included that they're forgotten about, with being, an endemic, species here. So there was also another, couple more, one other,
A kid's cemetery.
yeah.
But it's interesting to think like how, you know, a fungus being a native species, so like how did it end up getting here? But probably most likely through a bird and spores being, you know, stuck on their feathers. So when their ancestors eventually, you know, arrived here, those spores were able to drop off of them and, yeah, grow into their own, unique species of fauna.
And then also with the photographs, knowing, that some may have stated that it was going to be printed on metal or aluminum, just trying to, having experience of knowing what that looks like, being able to say, okay, yeah, this piece will look striking in its presentation. So like those two pieces there, well, all of those photographs we take that into consideration. We did. Again, having woodwork, three-dimensional pieces are always great to have, but also when they're done at an amazing level of artistry. And it's always, again, the scale. You see, especially Bethel, you could always see them as a monumental scale, but then when you see them in person, it's always interesting to, like, for myself. When I saw that, I could think of it as being much bigger, but then when you see it small, and you can also then appreciate the work that goes into working smaller. And then the 1.10 feet, we thought that was a really cool, just kind of departure from, the fine art, and that it could be, we kind of coined it as a tattoo. I think because of the color, like the tattoo transfers, it's like that blueprint kind of look. But I always admire taking everyday instrument and creating something beautiful with it. The big discussion with Scott's piece was that it wasn't for sale. Just again, you get to know, accustomed to artist works and the level that they bring, what they bring with their work each time, and so same, across the board. And that's why, again, size and scale is refreshing to see it, the size that it is. And then when you get to meet the artist too, that's the other thing, as a juror, you just see names and images, and you may not ever get to meet them. So I got to meet Paul last night, and it's really awesome. That's awesome.
Share your piece, the Alala.
Yeah.
You're on.
Oh, I'm on. Well, first of all, it was really humbling to be in this alcove with these wonderful artists. Well, I guess first I'll say a little bit of something about the media. I use oil and cold wax. You say cold wax to distinguish it from encaustic, which is a heated product. Adding wax to the oil paint chemically changes the media, and every media has limitations, right? No matter what you're working in. But it also has some advantages, and it allows me to layer upon layer, and use translucency
luminosity, but also allows me to excavate down into the layers to reveal previous layers, which I incorporated in that one. As far as the subject matter, Ames, thank you. I got to go to the Bird Conservatory, and that I painted a before, but watching the breeding pairs and then connecting to the fact that in pairs is where the future of those birds are, if that's not the future. And I was just really impressed by their relationship with each other, their fights, and their affection for each other. So I knew that that's what I wanted to paint this time.
And the scale, is that like the scale that you like to work in, or?
I would love to work bigger. For what I do, it has to be on cradled wood, and that's become a problem in the last few years as far as shipping, costing 5 times more than the actual piece, and the connections I had for making them on island have gone away, and I don't work with power tools. I'd love to, if anybody wants to teach me. But if you know of any connections, please talk to me. Cradled wood, need it.
Thank you. That was one of the conversations, was the intimacy of the pair, and wondering if like with the artists that have the HIAA pieces, that we went to the different sanctuaries and had that moment with them, whether it was from a photograph or, that was also part of our discussion.
I feel you when you're talking about being a photographer with a phone. That was that, and then adding interpretation to the background. And as far as the size and the scale, I worked with something I had that was a happy circumstance, that it's the scale of the bird and the scale of what I had to work with, and the composition came together.
So I was wondering, like, the other photos, those photographs where you could see the cage, the wire shadows on them. And so when I see pieces like this, I wonder about, like, with the black frame and that containment, and knowing that it was probably not taken outdoors or was taken in the wild. If that's also part of your thinking too, or is it maybe more subconscious choosing that?
I think that because the title, Hope and Heroes, we hope that we get to see them without the wires in front. So that was my thinking.
It just released.
Anybody know how it's doing? Thank you. Cold wax. Does it work with the water soluble?
I haven't experimented with it from the people I'm associated with that have tried it. They say it does. But I've got too much money in traditional oil to start over.
I tried, I don't know how many times to get the water soluble oils for my kids when I students. And so, but that's cool. I had time watching people with the cocktails, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. It's a whole different skill.
Yeah, that is a commitment. Again, representing different species, and I like how Jeff put these two together, real contrasting approaches to depicting the subject matter. We debated with this one if it should have been the surrealist show. But then I thought, for me, it was the education that they're foodie, and that they probably, if you're down at those depths and are in that space, that it's probably that experience that you're having. And anyone that has intimacy with HIAA, that's definitely captured there. We're almost there, people. Almost there. Thank you so much again for being here today, supporting the show. Artists for submitting your work, and for hanging. again, with, photograph and having, Daniel with her expertise, like, for me, the untrained eye, you know, it's like, oh, this is, you know, but she was like, no, it's like this, and it's just like that space that, if you don't go out and look and get off the beaten trail kind of, situation, that you wouldn't see this, or with her experience, you wouldn't know the importance of that piece. And here, I just, when I was at Palama, we had a stand of, Bili, and to see them being decimated during the Gulf Walk, period, was really sad every time I drove past them. So just to have this, piece submitted, part of my argument for it was that it's representing this part of the environment, the dry Mesozoic, and having those different species in there, and just the composition, if you know, the texture of the bark and the way it can grow. Avalon's lanterns, we just really enjoyed the presentation, and again, appreciating the bringing attention to the different species. And we cool having it. With this wall here, we really enjoyed the composition and the magnification, like the highlighting of the species. And then with this one, the really sad conversation of how they're under threat from the feral cats. You know, a lot of people just think mongoose, but the cats, feral cats, are just devastating our native bird species now. And with the Palila, the numbers were dwindling, and they didn't know, and they realized that it was the cats, and so the effort to capture the cats and to eradicate them in that environment. People don't think that cats can be up at those elevations, but apparently they're probably one of the worst institute species because they're so diverse in their diet, and so unfortunately for these guys, they're easy prey. And then with the Honu, we really liked how it wasn't like your kind of classic, traditional, interpretation of a Honu. We really liked how it kind of blended in with its surroundings, and for me, being in the water and having those moments where you're kind of just floating over a bunch of rocks, and all of a sudden one of the rocks moves. For me, that's what that spoke to. And sometimes you have that happy surprise when you're out in the environment and you get to have that experience. And I'll allow again, for me, it reminded me of the, kind of first portraits of indigenous peoples, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, that kind of, expression, and, of, in this case, captivity, what's happened to their environment, what's their future like. For me, that's what it is.
That's kind of it. There's clearly being the difference maybe then all that they are.
Yeah.
But you cannot see them without the fencing in the background, and the little bit of blue in that one's eye is the reflection of the sky. And the shadows of the fence on that one, is just really powerful.
And to know that there's such intelligence.
Yeah.
Birds, right? In our way of evaluating intelligence, right? And along with that, having those emotions, right? Having the argument in the relationship. Heartbreaking, but then also hopeful.
Yeah.
Keeping that hope. Again, if it wasn't for you guys doing the work, being here, supporting it, promoting it, everybody has had a chance, right? Mahalo, all of you for what you do, seen and unseen, really appreciate it. Again, mahalo for being here today. Giving us, putting all the work in to have this every year.
An honor to be like that.
And to the other, and Lee, and
Yeah, and the
Jeff,
other,
and the
yeah.
crew, and volunteers that, make it possible. All of them.
It's a big collaborative team effort. Need everybody. And it's all for them, all folks that are here with us. Yeah. For everybody.
And as artists, we gotta mahalo my family. For the support. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day and safe travels to wherever it is that you go. All the way home.
Thank you.